and I've worked with enough kids that they're out there now that
Yeah.
they're going to be able to keep the school
Yeah.
going. I'm
Yeah.
not too worried about that.
So to change gears a little bit, there's a half a dozen, maybe more, 7 or 8 coffee clutches in the morning, where adults get together and just hang out.
Oh
And
yes.
and as you move from place to place, there's the little restaurant next door where they go, and it's kind of an arty little group, and and they very social, largely senior women involved, although a few husbands are allowed to sit at a table just across the way. And then you go to McDonald's, and there's some retired teachers and some interesting characters. And you go out to the Petro Canada, and there's a lot of tradesmen that have retired, and the Top Gun, blue collar, Red Seal, but retired guys,
Right.
and the on most matters, authorities on most matters. And then you go to a coffee clutch, which is beyond explanation. It's beyond capturing. They do the crossword puzzle. That's the only commonality there. How would you describe?
That might get well. So I get to remember. I have a lot of history.
And
with,
I am totally
yeah.
setting you up on this.
That's okay. I have a lot of history with that because back in the day when I was playing professionally, the Howard Brook Band, a lot of people were from around here, right?
Okay.
And of course Lloyd Bragdon is one of those people. And back in those days, it was also fun for me. I've always been an early riser, even when I was in a band that played till 2 in the morning. To get up in the morning and find a place to eat and have do the puzzle.
Sure.
So that's not a new thing for me at all, and it's not a new thing for me to be doing that with Lloyd.
Okay.
So I consider myself to be very very fortunate to be able to, at this point in our lives, he and I are doing the puzzle again in the
Yeah.
morning. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's, I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest,
Yes.
the other people I have met have
Yeah.
been a real bonus because I've met
Yes.
some great people.
Yes.
But really, it became
Yeah.
Lloyd and I. Hey, let's do the
Yeah. What's his phrase? He's a piano tuner, but
Yeah.
that phrase, you're a guitar builder, repair, and a piano. It's luthier. If I got that correct.
I don't know about
Luthier.
A luthier is a guitar maker, builder, repairer.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Anyway, he has some phrasing of that nature that he's a very accomplished piano tuner and in high demand in this area.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
he's been doing it for a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, his father is the one who taught me how to play fiddle.
Yes.
So before he died, and it was really fun because I would go to the house,
Yeah.
and Lloyd would play the piano,
Yeah.
and Stubb would play the I guess I call it the Don Messer style because
Yeah.
it really was. I
Yeah.
mean, Don Messer had his own style, and so we were learning Don Messer songs, and Lloyd would play the song,
Yeah.
and then Stubb would play the fiddle part,
Yeah.
and then Lloyd would play the song without the fiddle part.
Yes.
And this was, and of course, nobody played through that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would take these home,
Yeah.
and I would practice with these tapes.
Yes.
So I'd hear Stubb do it, and then I'd get to do it right after him, and that's
Yes.
how I learned
Yes.
how
Yeah.
to play the fiddle was
Yes.
with Stubb, and that was
Yeah.
that's quite a thing.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
I grew up in Halifax, and in Halifax there are the Army, Navy, Air Force bases, and the 5 universities, and a heavy presence of the federal and provincial government, of course,
Right.
being the capital. But we also had CBC,
Right.
and so Don Messer lived in the neighborhood, and I was just trying to think of the singer Lauren White, also in the neighborhood, went to school with his daughter Holly, and on Sing Along Jubilee, Langstroth, who was the producer of Sing Along Jubilee, his son David, I was in Air Cadets with him, and Don Messer had a house with a sheer rock bluff coming off the sidewalk on Wedgwood Avenue, and he painted it white. So every Halloween that was defaced. So it was an annual event. You would see him out there with a roller on a stick,
Right.
painting the graffiti white again. And Don and I go back.
Right. No, that's really funny. Another thing too is I've also reconnected with Hunter, and he was on your show here the other day.
Yes, yeah.
And of course, what's really funny about that is he and Kevin Maddox is also
Yeah.
we were all high school
Yeah.
friends and went to college together,
Yeah.
and then eventually, of course, kind of went our own separate ways. But here we are again. And the joke is that we were going to perform as 40 years after was going to be the name of the band, but we were doing the math here the other night. It's actually closer to 50, but it's really fun just to be hanging out again.
Well, he
and
should
playing some
do.
music, right?
I'm going home by 10 years after on the harp. It would be
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's
We'd
it's
have him in
fun,
again
right?
for that.
Yeah. No, it's been fun. It's just fun, right? It's just fun to hang with those guys again. You
Oh,
know?
truly, yeah, truly. I have the fun thing about having you and Steve in is how you are is what you are looking at. Like Steve is Steve, whether you meet him on the street or how he was in that
Oh,
video.
I think so.
You
Yeah.
know, which really just I just find he's such a a guy to embrace life. You know.
Right. Well, and it's funny because Steve is he's still the same Steve he's always been. I suppose on some level, I'd like to think that I'm different, but I probably am not.
Yeah, the same guy. Yeah. All right, so we got to get a few old band stories on the road. Like you guys were a local band, but you played all over the Maritimes.
We did.
Yeah, it was always quite interesting. When I hear the Howard Brook band stories, I mean, I'm hearing stories from playing on Duckworth Street in St. John's, Newfoundland, and where there's something like. What was it? 41 bars and 8 blocks or something.
Listen, there isn't a place we didn't play. I mean, we were really I think our agent was in Halifax, right?
Yes.
But realistically, we were playing. At the time, it was more taverns.
Okay.
So we were in that era where when a band went to a town, you started on Monday, and you probably did 2 shows on Saturday, one Saturday afternoon and one Saturday night. So so really you're doing 7 shows in the run of a week.
Yes.
So you're there. So in a lot of places, like you were talking about television, right? So the radio station would have you come in and talk, and if there was a television show, you have to come and talk to them, and it was kind of fun, but it was all taverns.
Yeah.
And in that period of time, there became a change where clubs started to be really more where everybody went after the tavern.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And sometimes bands
the booze
didn't
was more expensive. You had to have a few before you went.
Right.
Yeah.
And like the Misty Moon was really my first exposure to a bar that didn't even really start to wind down till about 2:30.
Yes.
In the morning, right? And the crowd that was coming out of the taverns, showed up there and just kept running her. So you have the people who are arriving they're ready to party, right? So it's a different thing.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to think of the name of the tavern in Toronto, the Crazy Horse or something like that, where the Stones would get the kinks worked out of their tour before they would play. They played Canada before they would do the States and do a world tour and just sort of get their act together. But that took place in Halifax. It wouldn't be uncommon to go on a Monday night and see the Rolling Stones or the Doobie Brothers or somebody big and just getting their kinks out. And it would sort of spread across the team. I was at the Misty Moon the other night and the Doobie Brothers were playing. No, it can't be, and they couldn't afford the Doobie Brothers, and then you'd show up on a Wednesday, be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and man, oh man, there they were doing, Michael McDonald on the keys and
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, laying it down, yeah.
Well, we did towards the tail end of playing, we were doing more like gigs. You were still doing bar gigs, right?
Yes,
like a Monday through Saturday thing.
Yeah.
But you were also sprinkled in with club dates.
Yes, yeah.
And then and some of the club dates were different because some of them we were like the top bill, and maybe I would say some smaller clubs, but in some of the bigger clubs we were like the opening act. Right?
Okay, yeah.
So in that regard, when George Thorogood came through town and Trooper and Teenage Head and a whole bunch of them, right?
Yeah.
That we would be the opening act.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the I would say it's like a double-edged sword of the music business is we got to open for the Allman Brothers. I was so excited.
Yes.
Like I was like, these guys are my heroes.
Yeah.
I had seen them on Don Kirshner's rock concert when I was a kid, and it's like,
back when
right?
Both brothers were alive.
That's right. I'm going to do that, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, at this point in time, of course, Dwayne Allman was gone, and now I know so much more about the band that we played with at the time.
Yes.
And who was in it, what they did. But for me, I think Dan Toller was the guitar player, and I was very familiar with his playing. So it's a really really big thing for us to open for them in Moncton at the. I can't remember the name of the club. The
Cause maybe.
Metro Club.
Metro Club.
Metro
Club. Yeah.
And so anyway, we opened for them, and it's very rare for a band, an opening act to get even an encore, right? right? Like
Yeah.
some can't get off the stage, the Allman Brothers here. But I think if you went to see the Allman Brothers, you would have liked our band.
Yeah.
And of course people in Moncton knew our band because we
Yeah.
had played at the Cosmo Club quite a bit,
Yeah.
or the Metro Club quite a bit. So there were people there who knew our band. So we got a nice encore after, and I see the guys from the Allman Brothers standing off on the stage, cheering you on, and you go, wow, like this is pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they a lot of times if you're an opening act like that, you're done and you're out
Yep.
the door, right? Just
Yes, yeah.
heading. But in this case, they invited us to stay around.
Yeah.
And they said, please stick around for the end and hang out with us. This is our last night of a tour, and
Yep.
we're heading back over the border tonight. And why don't you stay and hang? So we did, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was almost everything you would expect, right? Like
Yeah.
there was lots of partying and blah blah. Blah. But that whole night really wore on me for a long time because I couldn't shake it, Rod, for a long time. Was the idea that here you are you're playing with essentially your heroes, right?
Yes.
And then getting to meet them and hang out with them, and I left there with this feeling like if this is what making it is, if these guys have made it,
Yeah.
like then I got to get out of this business because there was they were difficult to talk to. They were kind of, I'm just gonna say, like out of it. They're just out of it, right?
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
how else to describe it. Like,
Yeah.
and there was a whole scene around it, right? That was of whoever called it the music scene had it right, because I think for every musician there's probably like 5 people there that don't even play an instrument and they're
Yes,
just
yeah.
hanging out.
Yeah.
And it was a real scene, right? And I'm not saying we didn't have fun and we didn't have some good conversations, but it hung with me for a
Yeah. A
for a
long
long
time.
time
Yeah,
after
yeah.
that. Going,
A
"Ooh,
glimpse
well."
inside, and it wasn't very attractive.
Yeah, I didn't really like
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Now maybe it's not that way for everybody. I don't know, but
Yeah.
but for me, it was a real
Yeah.
eye opener.
Yeah, the great story of the porter that worked for CN at the Nova Scotia Hotel in Halifax. He would go work overnight, find himself in the basement of the Queen Elizabeth Hotel, get a cab to one of the several great hot clubs in Montreal, and find like Ike and Tina Turner playing. And he would say, "Listen, if I provide transportation and put you up, okay, will you come to Halifax and play your Sunday night, Monday night, and Tuesday night?" Or maybe Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, or he'd sort of work it out. Okay, yes, we would. Okay, just play for the gate. Okay, and so in the Arrows Club on Brunswick Street, where the town clock is, it was just to the right,
Right.
beside the old North American Life building. Okay, you'd go to the Arrows Club, which was an after-hours club originally for the Arrows hockey team.
Right.
It was an all-black exhibition team that would play around Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Moncton, Sydney, and so forth, and they would go and just bring the house down in terms of what their play. It was a huge spectator sport to see this team
Right.
come out of Halifax and play. And so they had their own club and their own transportation and so on and so forth. And they moved a couple of times and ended up having this bar. It was an old hotel, some rooms upstairs. And so you would go there, Now, I don't want to impeach myself in terms of the underage drinking laws of Nova Scotia,
Right.
but there was a person like me there. Okay.
Okay.
And so you'd go in, and there would be Ike. There would be Ike Turner and the band. Okay, Tina would be. What made me tell this story was the story you were just telling. She'd be off by herself, have a drink, and just sort of sitting there, and then they would play a set, and she wouldn't come downstairs. Okay, and then when she did, she would just be sitting off by herself, and not loving her life. Is kind of
Right.
with a portrait I'm trying to paint here, but it was quite interesting. But it was one more odd story about these great bands. How did they get there, and why were they there in Halifax? The crowd was small and
right.
so forth, but it was quite amazing. But at the same time, at that club, you'd see the premier there. Everybody and their dog would be popping in. The mayor regularly. Chief of police. That
Where
sort
the
of
music was.
Yeah,
That's where the music was.
Yeah, yeah.
I get it. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I think also too there was a different kind of music scene here many years ago. I mean, I think we're better known for like our Celtic music scene.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's been some incredible bands that have come out of the Maritime Province, just incredible players and songwriters and gifted talents.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of some of the obvious ones like Matt Minglewood, but I mean, I think there are a lot of other good country bands, and Fredericton and Halifax are loaded with good players.
Yes.
And that's really quite a thing to see.
Yeah. I was listening to Anne Murray was on the radio promoting a documentary on CBC at lunchtime, and she was talking about her heyday. But my sister Beth, remembers her playing on the beach at the Amherst shore.
Right.
Beth would be strumming to "You Are My Sunshine," and Anne Marie would be singing along with her brother Bruce, and they're all real people with a background in the Maritimes, and her comment today, promoting that with Tom Powers, that documentary was, Tom, you're a Newfoundlander, you want to go home. The difference between you and I is I did.
Right. Well, when you would go down to, like, we would play in Cape Breton Island, and there would be several places there we would play
Yeah,
regularly.
yeah.
And of course, you would get to know Matt Minglewood and his
Yeah.
family, or you have you over for dinner. I mean, there was a kind of a camaraderie
Yeah.
among musicians. I think because everybody knows that in the Maritime provinces, to make a living playing, you've got to work really hard and spend a lot of hours on the road and not
Yeah.
get paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
You've got to love it, right?
Wonderful.
I could get a job.